What does sort of audience targeting mean to Viacom, and what are you guys doing in terms of advanced targeting, and what does that mean for marketers?
Well, for Viacom, it simply means we are looking to ensure that advertisers are hitting their desired audience at a rate higher than just simply going out in the traditional manner at the demo level. So we have the opportunity and we have a product. It's not my specific task within Viacom, but we have a product called Vantage, and Vantage is data-driven television. So you will be able to come with your audience or help foster a segment with our team, or use a custom segment already available in the market, and ultimately index against our inventory and deliver no waste inventory across the Viacom network. So really what we're all about is trading on alternative currencies by allowing a more audience-based buying approach as opposed to a broad demo buying approach.
So tell us about the data sources that are using what's new, what works, first party, third party.
Sure. I mean, ultimately, that's going to be that's going to depend on the advertiser, and it's going to depend on how they're managing their own data. A mature advertiser that has a very mature CRM and a DMP, CRM system and a DMP, and the ability to have their own audience segments, has the availability to bring that segment on and match it, onboard it into an environment and match it against a data set that they feel comfortable with. Ultimately, we play at a completely agnostic role. Whatever you're comfortable with is what we want to operate against. If you want ComScore RentTrack, we'll use ComScore RentTrack. If you want somebody else, we'll use somebody else. Ultimately, it's the decision of the advertiser to determine what is the data set that they're comfortable with. Do they have their own data, or are they using a third-party set, or are they customizing or custom building a data set? And then what data set do they want to be indexed against? Again, you have a limited reality in the TV space of the data that you can use. You have ComScore RentTrack, set-top box data, you might have Nielsen, whoever, but realistically you're going to have to use one of those data sets, whichever you're comfortable with, to index against a linear audience. Well, I think a lot of people have a misconception of what programmatic TV is. The reality is that if you define programmatic as ad tech, which allows for automation of trading and the ability to layer data on to help make decisions on the inventory that you're going to be accessing, then that doesn't exist in TV. There is the concept, or in what is described as TV. The concept would be today that you use these tools, whatever those tools are, to do planning, right? To understand where I'm planning against, but the back end is still traded very, very much so in a manual fashion. So what I like to call hamsters on your wheel, right? The reality is that 80% of the inventory, more than likely, I don't know if don't quote me on that number, so to speak, but most of the inventory is broadcast inventory, which doesn't allow for DAI, which isn't really tradable in some kind of programmatic fashion. If you're talking about potentially OTT inventory or FEP inventory in digital, that's very, very different, and that's all television, of course. However, if you're talking about the majority of the inventory pool, that's not traded programmatically, it's planned programmatically, but then executed manually on the back end. The hope that everybody wants is that the space moves into an environment where it functions similarly to digital, as it regards at least the ability to have views into inventory in order to be able to trade and manage it. I don't know that that's a reality, because you have a smaller supply source in the broadcast space, and you have the reality that that's never going to be traded on a biddable fashion. What I think you have happen, at a later time when things are more comfortable, is you have standardized targets or segments that everybody can trade on across all the supplies, or all the suppliers, and you have systems that allow you, whether that's a broadcaster-owned system or a version of Hulu that looks like that, if you will, but an environment where an advertiser can go in, plan their audience and what audience targeting they're looking to do, and then allow for broadcasters to provide, in the short term, tactical plans that will hit that audience and index high across their own channels. And you would be able to see that in a single platform system. That is the hope. I think what happens today is you go in and you have a lot of people in the space going programmatic TV, And what happens is you go in and you're not really getting broadcaster inventory, you're getting local inventory, scaled nationally potentially, and so the 2 minutes of every hour, and technically I'm looking at what's available in that space, planning against that, and then sending it to local operators to execute manually. That's not programmatic in its purest form. It is the beginnings of it, because you have at least some kind of front end. There's a lot of work to do to get to a space where programmatic TV is the equivalent capability of inventory and buy being systematic. There's a lot of work to be done for TV, traditional, what people think of TV, to go to that route. Now, again, there are other factors that take place in terms of consumption patterns and where that consumption pattern takes place. And does it take place on a broadcast environment or an OTT environment, which is IP delivered, and so on and so forth. And your ability to see where that available inventory is for trade is very, very different. So you have Hulu, who does do things programmatically, and technically that is TV. However, it's not broadcast delivered TV. So I think that there has to be some delineation and some education in the market of what programmatic TV is today, what it can be tomorrow, and what it will be 10 years from now.